What is up? What is up? This is your buddy alertwolf. Give you another anime review, and this time it is of Kotoura-San Episodes 11 through 12. I am completing and capping off the series on my catch-up week here. And I will say this, I did forget to mention, I know in the Blast of Tempest video at the end, I went a little lengthy and explained what the next video is, and I'll remind you at the end of the video. But completely forgot, there's also my DC Nation stuff. So you're going to get two videos completing those two shows, which is Green Lantern and then Young Justice. And so you'll get those videos as well. But let's just jump right into these last two episodes of Kotoura-San. Episode 11. Excuse me. Episode 11 is all about, starts right where the last episode ends off. President's about to be attacked by the assailant. Now, I don't. You should know just by the way this person looks who it is. So it's not a shock when you find out later in the episode. But as the Prez is about to be attacked, you know, her man, the VP, jumps in front and takes the hit for her. He gets knocked out. Moritani, she tries to fight back. She gets in a couple of licks, and basically the assailant runs off. The criminal runs off. And they go to the hospital, where the VP is unconscious but being looked after by the president. Moritani, she says she only has a little lump. Kotoura blames herself again, and while Moritani is distracted by a call from her parents to pick up some food, you know, at the you know, just to pick up a little odds and ends, she runs away. And as she's walking aimlessly again, Moritani goes to find her. Meanwhile, Manabe is wondering what the hell happened, and he's worried. And so Kotoura is walking in the park. She falls, trips on a rock, which snaps her out of her daze, and you know, bruises her knee, skins her knee. Then she's confronted by the female detective, and you know, obviously we find out later who she really is and what's going on with that. And actually, I thought the explanation was really good. But so then we get, you know, her going to back to her place to take care of her, to dress the wound. At the same time, which I thought was hilarious, Nabe gets confronted by Midori or Moritani, excuse me, not Midori. I don't know why I said that. Moritani, and she had the Oni face, and he's scared the whole time. You think she's just gonna beat him, and they stop at the elementary school, and at the same time, you know, Kotoura gets her wound treated. The detective goes to make her some food, and the whole time, the detective drops hints that she's jealous that she has friends, and she can't make food. And Kotoura texts Moritani to let her know where she was at, and so that Moritani and Manabe finally have a heart-to-heart. She confesses her love for him, and he thought she was kidding, and then he realized that she was serious, and he's like, listen, I'm sorry, but you know, I love Kotoura. And she's like, well, I got rejected. I pretty much knew this was going to happen, but you know, believe it or not, I actually like it when you two are together, and you know, I don't like it when you two are apart, because she knows they're meant to be together. So she's accepted it, and she kind of loves both of them, you know. And because she really does love Kotoura-san, so there's that there. And then so she tells him to go find, you know, after this touching moment, to go find her, and then she's running off. And then you know, the Kotoura's eating with the the detective, and we get that back and forth, and then we get the scene between the VP and the president, and she's like, you were always doing that, always, you know, taking my hits for you, and she's like, you gotta cut it out, because she, you know, she really can't stand to see him like this, and he calls her out on her crap too. He's like, listen, to be honest, if that were to happen again, I'd do the same thing. I mean, I'm never not gonna, you know, I'll be by your side forever. I'm never not gonna protect you. And then there was the thing where, you know, you only like me because of who my mom is. And he goes, well, I respect your mother. I choose you every time, you know, and that makes her feel better. And then he's like, you know, talking about, she's like, but I'm such a bad person, you know. He's like, yeah, stop. You know, I'm with you to the end, even though you make a horrible villain sometimes, you're a horrible villain act. And, you know, she tries to convince herself she's this bad person, but she's really not. And, you know, so there's that touching scene, but that gets interrupted when, you know, when she gets the text that she's at the detective's house, and he starts thinking about it. He goes, you know, none of this really makes sense, because how did they know where we were going? How did that person know where we were going to be? He starts putting two and two together, considering they were warned not to be there, but then they show up there anyway, because, you know, you do the opposite of what people tell you. Then he realizes that the only person that this person knew you, and the only people who knew you and knew where we were going to be, is the detective. So there you have it. So at that moment, the president tries to warn Kotoura, sends her a text, but her phone had slid earlier under the thing. She goes to get her phone, and bam comes the baton at her, and she's like, who are you? You know, and then you see a change in the personality, and then she starts getting attacked, and even the voice changes a little. I like the way they played that. So she's running for safety. They even hint at this point, because she's screaming for help in her mind, and Manabe's like searching for her, trying to find her, and at the same time she mentally screams for him. He hears it for a second, so, you know, maybe she does have the power to project her thoughts, so that's cool. But you know, so she runs up onto the roof. You know, the detective explains to her that basically she's an alternate personality. That the detective didn't even realize that from being picked on and isolated, and she's basically all the anger and resentment for people with friends and against people who bullied her, that she takes out, she calls it relieving stress, for the detective on specifically high school girls that look like they're happy or popular. So she's going to hurt Kotoura to protect her. She's going to kill Kotoura to protect the detective from getting caught. And that's what's going on. And so Kotoura is, you know, about to be attacked, and she's thinking, you know, before there was a time where I did want to die, but now I don't. I want to live. And she calls out for Manabe, and then right at that moment he shows up, blocks the attack, and he gets into combat mode, like he's ready to throw down with this big chick. But Kotoura, you know, being the type of person she is, realizes that the detective is just suffering, and she goes off after her to give her a hug, you know, which causes the detective to reassert her personality over her bad half. And, you know, they hug it out, and she's like, I gotta go turn myself in, and the others show up and kind of gather around Kotoura in a protective pose, and the police have already shown up and cordoned off the building because you hear the sirens, and she's like, I gotta turn myself in. And then her partner, the detective, she explains what happens, I guess, like, oh, it turns out I have multiple personalities, who knew, right? And he gives her a knock on the head, and he's like, listen, when this is all said and done, I'll take you out to dinner, meaning once she serves her time. And honestly, she's crazy, but she's working through it, so I'm sure she was crazy at the time of the crimes, but whatever. You know, and so then that's pretty much pretty much it for that episode. And again, I watched these, just my little disclaimer, I watched both episodes just now back to back. I saved myself from watching it because for my reviews. So I blur a little bit the line between this episode and the next episode, just because, you know, I watched them back to back and they blur a little with me. So I'm pretty sure this was more or less how that episode ended, and so there you go. And basically, what will I give this episode? Well, this episode is a 5 out of 5. It was great. It was exactly why I like this series. Plenty of darkness, a lot of light, some humor, and it was very tense, suspenseful, and it was just very good. It's the reason why I love this show so much. And then we get into episode 12. You know, things go back to normal. And then this one's sort of the wrap up. This is the last episode, kind of wrapping some things up, and you know, they get surprised because the president says she's dissolving the club, and then she says, and then she goes, "Oh no, now we're going to start a new club, which is going to be the new version of the ESP club, and you know, it's all about focusing on Kotoura." And they're like, "Oh yeah, bothering her," you know, stuff like that. So, and then they say they're going to go sing karaoke, and then the Prez and Kotoura talk as everybody else goes. And the president's crying, and she finally comes clean about everything. And Kotoura's like, I've known the whole time I'm psychic, remember? She goes, I've been using you too, you know, because you made a place for me to be me and feel comfortable at. And because, you know, that had been bothering me the whole series. Like, how does Kotoura not know what the president's up to? Is she that good at hiding her thoughts? Because maybe with the experience of the mom. But, you know, sorry about the shake there, but we finally get an answer to that, and they're good. And then they go to walk off, and then they talk about it, and they're like, oh, and before that, she does read more Tiny's mind, and, you know, knows about the confession of love again. And so they start talking. Anyway, so the president and Kotoura start talking on the way. She asks them how her and the VP are doing, and then she makes her read her mind, and they talk about it. And she sees that after all those lovey-dovey stuff, he did backtrack a little. He's like, well, you know, we are childhood friends, and we're not going to college yet, so. And she's like, I'll have some pay. I'm going to kill him, but eventually he'll get it. I mean, obviously he knows. He's just fucking with her. You know, but and then so the press asks how her and how they doing, and she's like, well, you know, I know how he feels, but he's never actually directly said it to me. And so they have that thing, and then there's the joking around about the on the way home about how bad Kotoura's singing is because she's horrible. And then she goes home, and we get a scene with her mom. And this is very good, because if they didn't at least begin to address the mother, I was going to be upset at the ending of the show, because you have to address the mother. And the mom was waiting for her in the apartment, and she was reaching out to her, and so they go out and get her food, and she sees mom was a little worried about her going out alone, and they get the alcohol, and mom starts drinking, they eat food, and you know, and in the end they get into this argument, and they get into this fight, and it turns into Kotoura ends up pushing her mom on the bed, and then you think she's gonna hit her, but she hits her with a pillow fight, and then the two get into a pillow fight where they just yell at each other, and they knock over all this shit, and they talk it out a little, and then, you know, she's like, mom's like, clean up the mess, and I want some more to drink, and she's like, you could help. She's like, yeah, but didn't you tell me you're good at cleaning? She's like, so she cleans it up, and then the mom ends up falling asleep, and while the mom's sleeping, she's just thinking about that day when she told her daughter she hated her, she wished she'd never been born. And it was the memory of that event where what she didn't know, because she was so hurt by what happened, she was such a little kid, but she never really fully read her mom's mind when that happened. It was so shocking. That what the mom was actually thinking is that she's a horrible mother, and she's weak and pathetic, and she's crying. And so that touches Kotoura. Kotoura then, puts a blanket around her and actually gets into bed with her and sleeps with her. And, they were both crying in their sleep. And then the mom wakes up to find that she's been nuzzled by her daughter. And her daughter in her sleep goes, "Oh, can you make me some eggs?" And so the mom makes her the eggs and then leaves, but actually makes them bad, which is funny because the mother used to be a good cook. She just hasn't been. Oh, and they do mention during the fighting that the mother's boyfriend is as bad as Manabe as far as being a pervert. She just didn't mention it. So there you go. I do like that. I do like that the mom and her have the same taste in perverts. And the dad's well, it makes sense. The grandfather's a pervert. So, they say you marry, for women, you marry your father. So there you go. So, so that's touching. So that shows that the ice wall between the things is beginning to melt, and there's progress in a positive way. It's going to take some time between her and her mom. I mean, you saw it at that last panel of the mother when she went to rub her head, that some of the darkness around her eyes went away, and the bags. And it's because, the healing process has begun. And then we get a scene with the grandfather and the priest, and they're talking. He's like, "So you told my daughter about what happened, and she was worried and went over there." And she's like, "Well, look at this picture." And he's like, "What, did I do that?" And that's good, because these two old men care about those girls. So that's important. And then the rest of the episode is just a couple of jokes here and there because it's all about those two now admitting that they love each other to their faces, even though they both know. And there's some great jokes in there, and basically the show and the episode ends with they're walking. It's a Christmas tree out. It starts to snow, and they're excited. And she's like, "You're really true to your heart. That's what I love about you, or that's why I love you." And he goes, "Wow, that's great to hear. I was so worried, man. You hadn't said it yet. I say it all the time." And she goes, "Wait a minute, no, you don't." He goes, "Well, I think it all the time. I think that's the same thing with you around." And she's like, "Well, you haven't." And so he gets real close to her, like he's gonna kiss her, and then he's like, "I love you. I love you so much. I've always loved you." And that's pretty much that's your series. There's like little scenes and panels they show you, but that's the show. Now this episode, I'm gonna give this episode a 4. You know what? For endings go and as a recap and just tying up some of the loose ends, I was gonna give it a 4. I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. Like, it was really good. Like, it's exactly the type of ending I wanted to see out of the show. Now, the show itself is gonna get a 5 out of 5 for me. I absolutely loved it. The ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the drama, the comedy, everything about this show I absolutely loved. This show is one of those rare gems that comes along every once in a while. Like, you'll see shows like this where these comedic shows and slice of life shows, and you'll come across a show this good from that once in a blue moon. I mean, not to say the other shows aren't good, but this one is rare, is what I'm saying. I absolutely love Kotoura-San. I could continue watching Kotoura-San. I hope, there's no plans on another season, but I could continue, this could be a perpetual show that I could watch for another season or two. You couldn't keep doing it because then it would get old, but I absolutely love this show. And I think it's, for that particular season of anime, I know there were some good ones. That's up there. That's right up there. It's one of the best shows of the winter season. So, But that's enough out of me. And so I'm trying to think, is there anything else? So again, look forward to my DC Nation reviews, which would be, I'm gonna be putting out right after. First is Green Lantern, then is Young Justice, and I think that's it. So click it up if you like it, comment if you must, and please, please, please subscribe if you can. And this is your buddy Alertwolf signing out.